Yes, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and now we continue with our review of the year 2020, and this time our focus is on security. When you talk about security, Nigeria witnessed a lot of security issues this year, ranging from armed banditry to kidnapping and farmer-header clashes, amongst others. Based on data from Nigeria's security tracker, about 7,052 lives, were lost in 2020 to Boko Haram attacks, communal clashes, farmer-header crisis, as well as other pockets of violence across the nation. It is the last day of the year, and many are still in captivity, while the Northeast remains volatile. How can the government ensure the security of lives and property as we move into a new year? Joining me now is security consultant and CEO, Goldwater and Riverside Consult, Captain Aliyu Umar Babangida, retired. Good morning.
Good morning.
Compliments of the season. Thank you for joining us. Now, 2020, like we said, has, Nigeria witnessed a potpourri of security issues, if you may put it that way. And I wonder how you would evaluate the various incidents that took place in Nigeria security-wise.
Well, if you look at it, and you look at the incidents that occurred, the frequencies with which they occurred, the places where they occurred, you begin to see that the security situation in 2020 was waning. It was blinking. If we were to put it on a dashboard, for example, and say we want to analyze the security in 2020, you see that it was quite daunting. It was not encouraging. If we were to also consider what happened, the responses from the citizens as feedback, you'll see that there is more that needs to be done, and probably that which was done in the past is gradually being diluted by the occurrences as they happened, particularly in 2020. That's my take, basically. 2020 was quite daunting.
Now, from the reports we put out there, 7,052 lives lost. That's according to Nigeria Security Tracker. And for some persons, this has shown that perhaps the fundamental right to life is no longer sacrosanct.
If we were to put it in another way, you see, 2020 just made something clear, specifically from March to date. When the lockdown started, or when the COVID-19 protocol started, it just kind of exposed what was already there. It exposed what was already there, and probably we were not accepting or were in denial of. And the protocols, the lockdown, the pressure on all aspects of our living just exposed the deficits in each aspect of our living, no less security. So you discovered that if we could put it as the fear factor, the insecurity factor for the average person went up. I'll give you a simple example. So a few days ago, we celebrated Christmas. Now, if you know what Christmas period is in Nigeria, a lot of traveling.
Absolutely.
A lot of traveling happens. And I can tell you, some people will say the COVID-19 protocols probably stop people from traveling. I said no. If the COVID-19 protocols can stop people from traveling, then they should have also made the same people wear masks. Okay? So what stopped people from traveling actually, what stopped people from traveling is fear. The fear factor is high. Fear of travel on our roads, because suddenly the roads are not safe anymore. So if you look at that as feedback, you begin to see that the security situation is daunting.
Now, at this point, you talked about response from the people, and governments, state governments, especially for the Southwest, came up with the Amotekun Corps to perhaps address these issues of insecurity in the region. And we saw the conversations this generated when they talked about the Amotekun Corps. And there's also been the debate of states having community policing, adopting that. We've seen activities of banditry across states. And recent reports show that Kaduna State is already looking to begin the aspect of community policing. Now, when you look at that, bringing that into the mix to address issues of insecurity in 2020, did that really address anything, especially for the Southwest, talking about the Amotekun?
Well, these responses, other than ceremonial, need to have another side to them. It's one thing for you to put Amotekun on ground. It's one thing for you to ensure that community policing comes on board. But then that's one side of the story. What are we doing about the perpetrators? If you look at if you look at the dynamics of crime, you discover that people tend to adopt that option of crime because the deterrence factor is not strong enough. So you could put as many institutions on ground, put as many laws on ground. If the deterrence factor is low, then you discover that the criminals will not stop. Amotekun can actually be on ground. Community policing can be on ground. Does that really stop the man who wants to do what he's going to do from doing it? That's it. And the fastest way, the fastest low-hanging fruit approach, we can cut this whole thing short and stop this roller coaster generation of security in our country, is by making some very, very decisive, probably even ruthless statements, because we've gotten to that stage where these criminals are so bold, the state itself is losing reckoning.
We saw the several attempts on the life of Governor Babangida.
A governor has been attacked. Apart from a governor being attacked, over 300 boys were taken virtually right under the nose of a president. I remember, or do I say, let me not say I remember, it still happens. If a president is going to be within your environs, we have to stay indoors, the state is virtually shut down, roads are suspended, you virtually see security men over every inch of every corner of that place. So
yes, the attack happened.
Exactly. So when you see this kind of things happening, it tells you that the crime sets or genres are becoming bolder. They're becoming more confident. It tells you that the apparatus of state is not getting the reckoning it should from these people. And the reason why, in my opinion, is you haven't struck a very lethal blow to the heart of these criminals.
What would that be?
Oh my, it's simple. How many people have we given the kind of publicity they need when they are arrested, from arrest to conviction? Let me take us back for those who are old enough. Who in the last 20 years have we given the kind of publicity Lawrence Ovibo and Ini got?
Yes, that's true.
What happened to all of that? That's the deterrence we're talking about. That's the deterrence we're talking about. Because if you don't do that, then you are not going to use one situation to actually deter 1 million other prospects.
Right.
So it's not about going around and catching 1,000 people and getting them to become repentant and doing all. No. It doesn't stop the prospective criminal from going in there. Rather, he just encourages him, okay, you know what, there is a career, let me say there is a retirement plan for criminals, so let me just go do crime for 2 years and come repent. No, you have to put, you see, democracy has teeth.
Right.
Democracy can bite. Go and read the history of the United States of America, the oldest democracy, and you understand what we're saying. So we don't have to beg the problem all the time. We've gotten to that dire strait in this country, but I mean, in 1 year, 7,052 people
have lost their lives.
Wow.
And that is the figure that we know about.
Well, if you look at 7,052 people, that's we should be condoling with the Nigerian woman. That's 7,052 pregnancies, sorry.
Right.
It takes 9 months to make somebody.
Absolutely.
So multiply 7,000
and then
that's it. The human resource investment, the time resource investment, the prospects and probably the advantages we would have enjoyed from these people if they were allowed to live and optimally attain their life goals. And some errants are in the bushes doing this, and we are not yet, we are not yet decided on bringing one masquerade out and putting a God-fearing example out there in the public for everybody. Let whoever wants to cry.
Is it too difficult to do?
It's seemingly difficult because there is a vicious cycle we seem to be seeing. If you look at the events that have actually informed January 1 to date, we've seen people pointing fingers and we've seen people countering the pointed fingers. We've seen people coming out to say, no, this is it, and some others coming out to say, no, it's not. So it's not about the interest of the man on the street who is the victim now.
Right.
It's about the interest of certain people who seem to be actually gaining or having some kind of vested interest in ensuring that criminals are not defaced and unmasked properly. So you are seeing a situation where, for me, the dynamics seem to weigh into the fact that the criminals becoming bolder. They seem to be saying, we dare you to do anything. And if you do anything, we will speak. So Nigerians must understand something. When you see a man who is aloof to the yearnings and pains of the populace, then it's likely you are complaining to the problem. And you see, when you complain to the problem, you get verbiages.
Right.
You get just all those buzzwords we hear about leaving no stones unturned, about the long arms of the law and what have you, but nothing else happens. It's now like what we want to call a standard procedure. You send condolences, a high-powered delegation visits post-event, and a lot of all those ceremonies, then we go home and wait for the next one to happen. So what I'm saying is, can we possibly just pick one criminal when arrested and make him the face of deterrence for that crime in this country? That's the challenge for 2021.
It seems some Nigerians believe we do not understand how much this insecurity is costing us. For instance, a textile company, a 56-year-old textile company in Kaduna, recently just sacked about 300 workers. What is left for them? Because they say it's because of activities of bandits.
You see, security or the lack of it. Let's talk about security. Let's live in security. If a nation was to be an animal or a living thing, then security will be that oxygen that it breathes. Once it is not secure, no one will go there. So there is what you call an interdependency of sorts between security and the economy. There is an interdependency of sorts between security and education. There is an interdependency of sorts between security and anything you can think of. That's why when we do national security, we talk food security, health security,
Absolutely.
Education security, road safety, and all of it. So if security itself begins to wane, it's going to take a corresponding effect on these other sectors. So it's like having one finger infected, you don't treat it, eventually it's going to affect the operation of the entire fingers or even the arm and the hand. the hand and the arm if you don't do something about it. So security, any way you look at it, is key. It's not something we should play with. And if we want to get that done, then we have to start focusing more on the criminals than we are on the law enforcement agencies. The law enforcement agencies must deliver. That's key. But then when they deliver, you do not actually demoralize them by handling criminals with kid gloves and even giving them post-criminal plans or resettlement plans.
That is also demoralizing.
Very demoralizing. We haven't reached that stage yet that we should be able to afford that luxury. No. For now, it has to be a very decisive, probably, as I said earlier, even ruthless measure. And I don't have any apologies for all the humanists and all the pacifists who want to tell me the death sentence and what have you should not, what. These people have already invoked 7,052 death sentences this year. And we are yet to draw one. So how won't they become bolder? How can we ever get anywhere with them? I can give you countries that are examples of what you want to call a symmetry for criminals. There are countries insurgents will dare not go to because they know exactly how such countries will respond.
We treat the activities.
So basically, when you look at the crime sector, in my own perspective, it's about location and localization of industries.
So we're creating a breeding ground.
It's favorable. It's favorable. Crime is very, very lucrative here. If you were to locate or localize an industry, you're going to look for certain dynamics about the market, about the nearness to source of raw material and what have you. So if you were a criminal and you wanted to do crime, from the indices we're seeing, from the things that are happening on a daily basis, you are getting feedback that, okay, this particular geographical area is a lucrative ground for crime. And what we need to do is to turn our nation space to a symmetry for criminals. You know, you come here, it's non-negotiable. We get you, you are down.
Right. So now projecting, or let's say we're talking about 2021 now. You've talked about publicity for, creating that can serve as a deterrent for crime. Beyond that, what more should government be looking into, especially talking about the morale of those that are on the front lines when it comes to fighting insecurity and every other aspects? A lot of persons have talked about an overhaul of the security architecture, and some have said that wouldn't work, change of security service chiefs. There's just been divergent views with regards to this. Indeed,
going into 2021, I see us entering 2021 with a lot of anticipation.
Right.
From my own position, if I do a strategic security appraisal of January and February, I see us going into those first 2 months with a lot of anticipation. So our law enforcement agencies have to actually be on what we call a stand-to situation. The reason is simple. Right now we're looking at a second wave.
Of course.
Impending second wave of the COVID-19 protocols. That second wave is going to come with its challenges and its pressures. Then we have what you can call a contradictory wave. What's this contradictory wave? We have an institution that is placing a deadline on people to register for NIM cards.
Right.
And I tell you, they do not have the capacity to meet their own deadline.
Interesting.
So, yes, they don't have the, if you know how many people, 40+ million people have NIM, the balance have to do it before a certain date. Now you put in a deadline, the capacity to meet, of which you do not actually have, that is going to create pressure. The third thing is when you start taking phones off people, the most affected people will be people between 18 and 45.
They become restless.
Now look to NSAS. Who were the most active hands in that period? The embers haven't died yet. So you have to be careful. So January and February for our intelligence and law enforcement agencies is going to be very, very, very anticipatory. And for the lawmakers and politicians, They are the ones that will either stoke the embers of this tension or douse it. We have to do things well thought out. We have to think, we have to be futuristic with our politics and our results. So for me, I'd leave it at the first 3 months, the first quarter of 2021. That will actually set the pace
for the rest of the year.
For the rest of the year.
Now, you mentioned NSAS, and I'd like for you to touch on that, especially one issue that was sore is the fact that there is a trust deficit between the people and security operatives. How can we build that going into 2021? Because it's very key.
Basically, for the law enforcement agencies, building trust is a very simple thing, provided they do not shirk numbers. If you don't measure anything, you cannot control it. And when it comes to numbers, I've said it variously. Our law enforcement agencies across board, they seem to be allergic to numbers. I look to see a day when all those beautiful policewomen and those beautiful female soldiers will come out with pro formas, with forms. There will be a website online. Let's do a Vox. Get a feedback. What do the people think of you? Let them score you on a scale of 10, 50. Don't shy away from the numbers. Work with it. You're going to get rich feedback. Then you need to also have younger officers, middle-class officers, that key into the 102 million young Nigerians we have, to start becoming face ambassadors of these different security agencies. It's their time, it's their world, it's their country, across board, whether in the armed forces, whether in the security agencies. Look, Nigeria is youth-driven.
Right.
So when you begin to have them bond on those grounds, it's not going to be a we versus them thing. It doesn't work anymore. That one left Nigeria with military rule and probably those early democracy years. Today, 2020 Earth Nigeria is interesting. There are prospects. Within my sector, security, I see dynamics on my database that make me so excited. But then, it's left to be seen, as we say.
All right. It's left to be seen, and we hope for a better security situation come 2021. Thank you, security consultant and CEO, Goldwater and Rivers and Consult, Captain Aliyu Umar Babangida.
You're welcome.
Thank you.